Chapter 251. Hunting Island Number 1, at the edge of the Scarlet Forest. 6 cheetah mechas were slaughtering more than 1,000 people. Blood flowed like a river, and broken limbs flew everywhere. Immortal looked at the 6 cheetah mechas with neither sadness nor joy on his face. There was nothing to be happy about getting these 6 cheetah mechas. After all, his goal was an army of mechas. 6 cheetah mechas were nothing. On the contrary, the 6 cheetah mechas he obtained today made him fall into deep thought. These 6 mechas originally belonged to the Black Pack gang. Now that the monk had cracked the firewall, they were slaughtering the Black Pack gang members. Then, one day, if he had a mecha army, he would be able to do so. If the firewall was cracked by others, this mecha army would turn on him and even massacre the entire base. Then, wouldn't he have no power to fight back at all? Gradually, the screams became fewer and fewer. The number of people still standing on the ground became fewer and fewer. When the last person was slaughtered, Immortal said to the monk in his mind, "If there's a chance, make an anti-cracking program." The little monk's voice sounded, "Okay, boss, I thought about it just now. With an anti-cracking program, it's impossible for them to take our mechas over." Immortal shook his head and said, "What I mean is, let them take the mechas over." The little monk reacted quickly, "Boss, you mean to let them think that they have cracked our firewall and take the mechas over? In fact, they haven't cracked it at all. After they take it over, I'll control it again, and the mechas will be able to kill them over there?" Immortal nodded, "Yes." The little monk chuckled, "Hee hee, not bad, boss, you're so cunning. I admire you." Immortal added, "That's right. Also, add a self-destruct program. If we really can't control it anymore, these mechas will self-destruct." The little monk said, "Boss, you're so thoughtful. Don't worry, I'll make it for you within a month." After talking about business, the little monk sighed again, "Boss, it was really fun killing just now. Next time, if there's such an opportunity, you must bring me along." Immortal laughed, "You really don't look like a monk." The little monk chuckled and said, "I'm just helping them transcend. I'm doing good deeds and accumulating merit. Amitba." Next, Immortal continued to look through the memories of the gang leader of the Black Pack gang. From his memories, he learned a lot of useful information. At the same time, Immortal once again checked the information about the ancient dragon battlefield. Moreover, Wu Lu clearly knew more about the ancient dragon battlefield than his son did. He even knew which province the ancient dragon battlefield was located in. This made Immortal's heart burn with passion once again. At the same time, in Dari Prefecture of Yuzhou Province. This was one of the more remote prefectures on the Flaming Dawn continent. In the entire county, the largest faction was the Black Pack gang. In the courtyard of the Black Pack gang's headquarters, a ball of light suddenly appeared without warning. Then, the blue and white light condensed into the silhouette of a human. It was none other than Wu Lu, the leader of the Black Pack gang. After Wu Lu appeared, he was still in a state of shock. He strode into the main hall. His wife heard the footsteps and hurriedly came up to him. "Gang leader, where's our son? Did you find him?" But after saying this, she found that something was wrong. She saw that the gang leader's eyes were still bloodshot. His hair was messy, and there was even a trace of shock on his face. She hurriedly asked with concern, "Gang leader, what happened?" Ulu's expression was ugly. But he couldn't directly tell this woman the news of his son's death. He only said, "We're in trouble. The 1,000 people I brought are all dead, and the 6 mechas were all taken." "Ah," the woman was shocked and hurriedly asked, "How did this happen?" Gang leader Ulu slammed his fist on the stone table. Crash! The stone table instantly shattered into pieces. He gritted his teeth and said, "Where there's life, there's hope. One day, I'll kill my way to the first hunting island. I'll kill that kid." The woman knew that she couldn't say anything else. She agreed and said, "As long as you're fine, we can regroup and buy a few more mechas. Or, we can also join forces with the other forces in the other counties and kill our way to the first hunting island. Raze that place to the ground. Avenge our 1,000 brothers." These words were exactly what Wu Lu wanted to hear. He immediately ordered, "Men, prepare the gifts. I'll go find the other forces now." However, as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. His expression changed drastically, and his entire body froze on the spot. Seeing this, the woman's beautiful face also turned pale. She asked in shock, "Gang leader, what's wrong?" The gang leader didn't have time to pay attention to her at this time. He only felt that something seemed to be expanding rapidly in his body. He didn't have time to say anything, let alone do anything. The next moment, bang, within his body, a blood-red shockwave quickly spread out. It instantly rushed out of his body and spread to the entire main hall, and then to the entire Black Tuo gang. This shockwave seemed to have no impact. It rushed to people, and even to the flowers and plants, but the flowers and plants didn't even shake. However, whether it was people, flowers, plants, or trees, after being affected by the shock wave, they quickly changed. The woman and the gang members of Black Tuo gang quickly had greenish-black veins on their skin. Their eyes also turned grayish-white. However, unlike the zombies on Earth, their grayish-white eyes were more bloodshot. They looked more terrifying than the zombies on Earth. Each of them had become evolved zombies. The flowers and plants in the courtyard quickly became tall and big. At the same time, they also turned scarlet. Thick sanguisurincus began to hang down from the trees outside the courtyard. These sanguisurincus seemed to be alive, like blood snakes, constantly twisting. It looked even more strange and terrifying. At the same time, the blood-red shock wave continued to spread outwards. 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 50 kilometers. It didn't stop until it spread out to a radius of 100 kilometers. Within this range of 100 kilometers, all creatures became infected. And all of the infected creatures had a trace of Immortal's dragon will in their bodies. Immortal could easily know the situation within the range of the virus 0 infection. After discovering this, a smile appeared on Immortal's face. He knew that in the next period of time, the infected animals within the infection range would continue to move around. The entire infection range would continue to expand. And the news of the infection here would quickly spread throughout Yuzhou. At that time, the infection of Great Sun County would attract a lot of attention. As for his hunting island number 1, he would be able to develop in silence. Chapter 252. Immortal used the strand of dragon intent he had left on Ulu to investigate the situation in the Great Sun County. He was temporarily relieved. His next short-term goal was to quickly collect evolution points and upgrade the system. Only by upgrading the system could he increase his strength quickly. Then he could quickly become a desolate hunter and go to the ancient dragon battlefield. Thus, Immortal crazily killed desolate beasts on the first hunting island. With his strength, killing hundreds of desolate beasts every hour was not a problem. That was tens of millions of evolution points. In a day, he would earn 300 to 500 million evolution points. Adding on the clones on Earth, the level 10 psychokinesis, and the sea dragon clone, he could earn 300 to 500 million evolution points every day. Immortal earned 7 to 1 billion evolution points every day. Even so, he felt that it was still a bit slow. Fortunately, after a few days, his telekinesis had slowly recovered to a radius of 100 kilometers. The speed of killing infected creatures had greatly increased. He would earn more than 2 billion evolution points every day. At the same time, in the Great Sun County of Yuzhou, the princess's manor. The princess looked at the messages on the screen and felt a headache. Estimated death toll is more than 2 million. With the Black Tuo gang as the center, everything within a radius of 130 kilometers has been infected and turned blood red. The infection range is still expanding. According to experts, if it is not controlled, the infection range will reach 300 kilometers within a month. It was not the first time a virus had leaked on the Flaming Continent. The Flaming Continent had more than 20 hunting islands and more than 20 hunting grounds. The owners of these hunting grounds were responsible for releasing all kinds of viruses into the hunting grounds and giving birth to powerful infected creatures. The desolate hunters could go to these hunting grounds to gain experience. Thus, if they were not careful, the virus would leak. However, since they could release these viruses, they naturally had a lot of research on them. They were very clear on how these viruses spread and their weaknesses. Thus, even if there was a virus leak, they could control it in a very short time. However, the virus that leaked this time was a new type of virus. The princess sent out several groups of experts to study this new type of virus. In the end, they found that with their current methods, they could not kill this virus. Even the disinfectant known as 10,000 poison extermination was useless. This was the main reason why the princess was having a headache. Two strategists stood behind the princess. Princess, we should report this to the governor as soon as possible. Otherwise, if things get out of hand, we won't be able to bear the consequences. A long-bearded strategist said. The princess remained silent. Another strategist with a fair complexion shook his head. I don't think it's appropriate. If the governor knew that our princess was unable to resolve this matter, wouldn't he doubt our princess's ability? And if we can't solve it, we'll report it to the governor. It's like throwing a big problem to the governor. Will the governor be happy? If the governor is unhappy, none of us will have a good time. The long-bearded tactician stared at the fair-skinned tactician and said angrily, human lives are at stake. How can we abandon the lives of the common people for the sake of a black veil on our heads? The fair-skinned strategist sneered. Even if it's a matter of life and death, you can't throw the trouble to the leaders. Our mission is to help the leaders solve their problems. The long-bearded tactician was also angry. His voice rose an octave. Then what do you think we should do? The fair-skinned tactician looked coldly at the long-bearded tactician. It's simple. Just 2 words. The princess's eyes flashed as she looked at the fair-skinned strategist. The fair-skinned strategist said slowly, nuclear flattening. The long-bearded strategist shook his head. I knew you wouldn't say anything good. Have you forgotten what the Continental Nuclear Weapons Convention says? If people know that we used nuclear weapons without permission, I'm afraid. The fair-skinned strategist interrupted the long-bearded strategist. How big is the continent? Our great Sun County is just a small place. We'll clear the area first and then detonate the nuclear bombs. Who will know? Plus, how many nuclear bombs are detonated every year on the continent? Have you done a count? 300. Do you think no one will know if more than 300 nuclear bombs are detonated? We're all adults. There are a lot of things that people just turn a blind eye to. Don't take it too seriously. The long-bearded strategist shook his head. If everyone thinks the same way as you do, the Flaming Dawn continent will be finished in less than 500 years. The fair-skinned strategist was amused and laughed. We hunters can live up to 200 years old at most. We don't care about what happens 500 years later. Maybe we'll find another habitable planet in 500 years and migrate. The long-bearded strategist wanted to say something, but the princess spoke first. Then let's just do it. The long-bearded strategist paused, then shook his head and sighed. Sigh. This was the current situation of the Flaming Origin continent. He couldn't do anything by himself. Therefore, they used 3 days to move the people around the infected area to a place far away from the infected area. They also used drones to check the infected area to make sure that there were no humans around. Then, they dropped a nuclear bomb on the infected area. Flames shot up into the sky, and a huge mushroom cloud rose. The shockwave destroyed all the buildings within a radius of more than 100 kilometers in a very short time. Not even a blade of grass grew on the ground. However, 3 hours after the explosion, when they sent the drone to investigate again, they found nothing. They were shocked to find that the infected creatures that had been destroyed by the nuclear explosion were quickly recovering. This new virus had a strong self-healing ability. Not only could the nuclear bomb not kill them, even the cells that were killed by the radiation of the nuclear explosion could be quickly repaired. This discovery caused a wave of panic in the princess's heart. The strategist's already pale face turned even paler. There was almost nothing in the Flaming Origin continent that couldn't be killed by nuclear bombs. And now, this virus wasn't afraid of nuclear bombs at all. Not being afraid of nuclear bombs meant that it wasn't afraid of anything. Didn't that mean that if protective measures weren't taken as soon as possible and this virus was allowed to spread, the entire Flaming Origin continent would be doomed? Finally, the strategist said to the princess. Princess, I'm afraid this virus is not simple. We have to report to the governor. The princess's expression was extremely serious as she nodded. She only said one word, okay. Soon, the governor learned about what happened in the Great Sun County. His first reaction was to do the same. But when he learned that the virus wasn't even afraid of nuclear bombs, he panicked. He quickly organized manpower and physical resources to build a quarantine zone around the infected area. At the very least, the virus couldn't be allowed to continue spreading. The incident in the infected area of the Great Sun County attracted the attention of almost everyone in Yuzhou. The few forces who knew that there was a crystal source vein on Hunting Island No. 1 had temporarily given up on the idea of going to Hunting Island No. 1. They felt that it was better to wait for a while. It would be safer to go out after the new virus was eliminated. Chapter 253. Those forces all set their sights on the Great Sun County. This gave Immortal a chance to develop. He continued to sign in every day, and at the same time, he continued to kill those infected creatures. Hunting Island No. 1 was extremely large. Its area was probably similar to the area of China on Earth. On such a large area, the number of desolate beasts was in the tens of billions. After nearly 2 months of killing, Immortal's evolution points had gradually approached 100 billion. Finally, on this day, when his dragon will swept across again, all the desolate beasts within a radius of 150 kilometers exploded into a bloody mist. A notification sounded in his mind frowny face. The total number of evolution points has reached 100 billion points. The system can be upgraded. Do you want to upgrade immediately? Immortal was overjoyed. He was finally going to upgrade. However, he didn't upgrade immediately. Instead, he took a few steps and jumped back into the base. He hadn't signed in yet today. Soon after signing in, he said in his mind, upgrade now. The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face. This upgrade will consume 100 billion evolution points. Do you want to confirm the upgrade? Of course, quickly upgrade. Immortal couldn't wait to rub his hands. He felt that his palms were sweating. Although it wasn't the first time he upgraded. However, because he had waited for too long this time, and because his strength had been increasing very slowly recently, he hoped that after the system upgraded, his strength would increase faster. Therefore, he was full of expectations for this upgrade. This upgrade will take 24 hours. During the upgrade, you cannot sign in. The system's voice sounded again. Immortal was slightly stunned. In the past, it only took 12 hours to upgrade, but this time it actually took 24 hours? Whatever, I'll upgrade first. For the next day, Immortal stayed in the base obediently and didn't go anywhere. Although it was only 24 hours, only one day. However, because he was too expectant, Immortal felt that each day was like a year. It seemed that waiting quietly wasn't a solution. Something had to happen to make time pass faster. Fortunately, something happened in the afternoon. Emma brought her son into Immortal's office. Master, my strength has increased. Hearing this, Immortal opened the blood dragon's eye and looked at Emma. Species, blood clan, level 1 vampire, level 1 psychic. Immortal's heart was filled with joy. Level 1 evolved vampire was equivalent to a level 1 hunter. Emma was the first person to reach the level of a scavenger other than himself. If the base wanted to develop, the scavenger hunters were indispensable. Don't forget that Emma is also a psychic master. This allowed her to crush level 2 scavenger. He could even challenge a level 3 hunter by 2 levels. Thinking of this, Immortal had an idea. Emma had become a level 10 super mutant blood breed after absorbing Dracula's blood. Then he stayed in the base for a few months and reached level 1 to evolve into a vampire. In that case, he could sign in and get some Dracula's blood from the system. For others to absorb, turning them all into level 10 super mutant blood breeds. With the help of the Dragon Palace, these level 10 super mutant blood breeds could become level 1 evolved blood breeds within a few months. In fact, he had thought of this when he first came to the Flaming Dawn continent. However, at that time, he had to sign in at various places to increase the equipment of the base. He also had to constantly sign in to increase his strength. Therefore, he could only put this idea aside for now. Now that the system was about to be upgraded, perhaps after the upgrade, the speed of his strength increase would be greatly accelerated. Then, he would be able to free up some sign-in opportunities, sign in Dracula's blood, and create level 10 super mutant blood breeds. Immortal carefully sized up Emma, who had just leveled up. He saw that her figure seemed to be getting better. She was fat where she should be fat, and thin where she should be thin. There was not a trace of extra fat. She did not look dry. Moreover, her every movement exuded the charm of a mature woman. Even someone as determined as Immortal couldn't help but feel a little emotional. She was simply a natural beauty. Immortal said, after being promoted to level 1 evolved blood breed, your level is equivalent to a level 1 scavenger and a level 1 wild beast. If you want to increase your strength faster, you can go outside the base to gain experience. Emma nodded. Yes, master. Then she walked out with her son, who had a dull look in his eyes. Immortal thought for a moment and said, you can leave your son in the base and let Happy take care of him. This way, it will be more convenient for you to gain experience. A hint of panic flashed in Emma's eyes. As Immortal's servant, who had been transformed by Immortal with Dracula's blood, she should have been 100% obedient to any of Immortal's orders. But only when it came to her son did she feel a little reluctant to part with him. She pleaded, Master, please let me take care of my son. Without him by my side, I feel uneasy. I know that I disobeyed your orders, and you can punish me however you want. I just beg you to let me take care of my son. Immortal smiled and comforted her. This is not an order, just a suggestion. Since being separated from your son will distract you, then you should take him with you. The panic in Emma's eyes immediately turned into gratitude. Thank you, master. Thank you, master. After Emma left, Happy walked in. She looked at the backs of the mother and son with pity in her eyes. She gestured to Immortal. Brother Emo, do you have a way to restore her son's intelligence? They are so pitiful. Immortal shook his head and said, I don't have a solution yet. Maybe there will be one in the future. Happy nodded and gestured. Thank you, brother. Immortal shook his head and said with a smile, What are you thanking me for? I was planning to restore her son's intelligence when I could do it in the future. That night, the moonlight gently leaped in through the bedroom window and caressed Happy's cheeks. Immortal looked at Happy's side profile that was outlined by the moonlight and listened to her even breathing. A feeling called happiness slowly spread in his heart. After being reborn, he was able to meet such a kind and considerate girl like Happy who could possess terrifying strength at critical moments. He was definitely lucky. But this analogy did not seem to be appropriate. He must have been lucky for 8 lifetimes. Therefore, he had to increase his strength as soon as possible and give her a stable and warm home. It was late at night. Happy was already sound asleep. Immortal was thinking about the system's upgrade, but he could not fall asleep no matter what. He quietly put on his clothes and went to the monk's room. More than 10 days ago, the monk had already created the anti-hacking program for the mecha. At that moment, he was working overtime, playing games. When he saw Immortal arrive, he quickly put out the cigarette in his hand and said the name of Buddha. Yo, Amitba. Boss, why are you here? It's the middle of the night. It's not very appropriate for you to suddenly come to my room and be seen by others. Immortal glared at him and said, Stop it. Cut the crap. Give me the game console. When he could not sleep at night, playing games was the best way to pass the time. Because as he played, he would realize that the more he played, the more energetic he became. The more he played, the more he could not sleep. Chapter 254. Immortal and the little monk played for an entire night. Speaking of which, the games in the Flaming Origin continent were indeed much more fun than those on Earth. The game's graphics were extremely realistic. Even the pores on a person's body and the texture of leaves could be seen clearly. Moreover, the game's plot and other aspects were definitely incomparable to those on Earth. After playing for an entire night, the little monk's eyes were already bloodshot. Although he was excited, his body was only equivalent to an ordinary person's body. Therefore, he looked a little tired. On the other hand, Immortal looked very energetic. This was the difference between the physique of a hunter and an ordinary person. Immortal only left the little monk's room after 8 o'clock in the morning. The people in the factory saw Immortal come out of the little monk's room early in the morning. They were a little surprised. After Immortal returned to his room, some people whispered, "What happened? Was Mr. Imo kicked out of his room by Happy? He's homeless and can only go to the monk's room? I don't think so. Maybe Mr. Imo took the initiative to go to the little monk's room." Happy, so love can really disappear? After Immortal returned to his room, Happy saw that Immortal had returned. Although she was puzzled about where Immortal went last night, she also knew that Immortal had a lot of secrets. Since he didn't want to say, she didn't ask. Instead, she took the initiative to prepare breakfast for Immortal. Immortal looked at Happy's busy back and felt warm in his heart. He said, "I couldn't sleep last night, so I went to the little monk and played games for an entire night." Happy turned around with a smile on her face. Her smile was very contagious. It made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. After breakfast, Immortal wanted to lie on the bed and rest for a while. However, when he thought that the system's upgrade would be completed by noon, he couldn't help but be filled with anticipation. He still didn't feel sleepy. He could only lie on the bed and continue playing games. Speaking of which, this game called Ultimate Slaughter was getting more and more addictive the more he played it. He played until 12:25 noon. A notification suddenly sounded in his mind. System upgrade completed. When Immortal heard this, he was instantly overjoyed. He quickly put down the game console in his hand and checked it in his mind. Upgrade Reward 1, 100 drops of Dracula's blood. Upgrade Reward 2, Flying Mechas, 10 sets. Upgrade Reward 3, Wormhole Transportation Device, 1. Immortal looked at the rewards and nodded repeatedly. System, you're like a worm in my stomach. I'll get whatever I want. Just as he was about to ask for the blood of Dracula and the combat mech, he was rewarded. The wormhole teleportation device was also something he coveted. After all, there were almost no restrictions on the flaming origin continent. Chapter 255. Immortal descended from the sky like a meteorite, smashing towards the 200-meter-long dire beast. His speed was extremely fast. The dire beast could not dodge at all. Boom! His fist smashed into the desolate beast's head. The tremendous impact caused the ground beneath the desolate beast's feet to sink down. Then, its skull shattered with a cracking sound. It caved in. The dire beast's 200-meter-long body also crashed onto the ground. The ground within a radius of 500 meters had already cracked. A single punch from a human was enough to knock a 200-meter-long beast to the ground. This scene was extremely visually impactful. However, Immortal knew that dire beasts would not die so easily. With the dire beast's strength, as long as the muscles and cells in its abdomen that stored energy were not destroyed, the energy would allow its body to quickly recover. As expected, the dire beast's sunken head was recovering at an extremely fast speed. However, its head was still heavily injured. Before its head recovered, it would not be able to stand up and fight again. Immortal took advantage of this opportunity to move a kilometer away. Following which, using dragon shadow steps, he instantly rushed to its abdomen from a kilometer away. Using the huge inertia, he punched towards its abdomen. One had to know that the abdomen of a dire beast was its Achilles heel. Therefore, they were extremely protective of this place. Other than a thick layer of fat and muscle protection, there was also a layer of energy protection under the skin. Boom! Immortal's punch landed heavily on the dire beast's abdomen. The huge force caused the dire beast to slide over 100 meters on the ground. It created a 200-meter wide scar on the ground. However, because of the light shield protecting its abdomen, it did not cause any substantial damage to its abdomen. At this moment, the dire beast's head had completely recovered. It opened its mouth and a ray of energy attacked Immortal. However, Immortal had already leaped up and once again used dragon shadow steps to jump 10,000 meters into the air. At the place where Immortal was previously standing, a 200-meter-wide crater appeared on the ground after being hit by that ray of energy. Immortal was once again smashed into the ground. The desolate beast had just spat out energy once, so it needed more than 10 seconds before it could spit out energy again. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Immortal smashed down once more. The desolate beast's head caved in once again. At the same time, Immortal arrived 10 kilometers away. Activating Dragon Shadow Step, he once again rushed to the abdomen of the desolate beast. He viciously smashed the desolate beast's abdomen. The desolate beast slid back 500 meters. Dozens of giant trees with a diameter of several meters were broken. However, its abdomen still did not suffer any substantial damage. However, when Immortal used his draconic will to investigate, he discovered that cracks had already appeared on the energy shield around its abdomen. He was overjoyed. With a leap, he dodged the second beam of energy from the desolate beast. For the third time, it leaped into the air and fell down, causing its skull to cave in. Once again, he used Dragon Shadow Step and charged over from 10 kilometers away, smashing into its abdomen. This time, there was finally the sound of glass shattering. The light shield around the big guy's abdomen directly shattered. The flesh on its abdomen was torn open. Immortal took the opportunity to quickly form Titan Dragon Claw and slashed at the thick fat on its abdomen. The desolate beast also realized the danger and hurriedly struggled to get up. However, it was already too late. The Titan Dragon Claw easily cut through the fat on its abdomen. A large amount of energy inside immediately flowed out. It kept dissipating in the air. And its head that was healing itself lost the support of energy and could no longer heal itself. After a moment, this 200-meter-long level 2 desolate beast finally stopped moving. The cells on its body began to die. Phew! Immortal let out a long breath. He was used to the assistance of draconic will and energy, so his battles had always been very easy. Now, without using draconic will and energy attacks, it was really not easy to fight with pure physical strength. If others knew what Immortal was thinking, they would probably vomit blood. Facing a desolate beast of the same level without using any energy attacks or telekinesis attacks, just relying on physical strength, he defeated this desolate beast in just 6 punches. It was completely a one-sided crushing. Was this not easy? If it were anyone else, they would not be able to do it at all. One had to know that the strongest aspect of a desolate beast was its physical strength. Now that you directly crushed a desolate beast of the same level with your physical strength, was this not easy? Of course, this was all because Immortal had taken countless drops of Titan Dragon blood and changed his physique. His physical strength, and other aspects were far superior to hunters of the same level. Otherwise, he would not be able to challenge a desolate beast of the same level with his bare hands. At this moment, the system's notification finally sounded in Immortal's mind. Killed 2 desolate beasts, obtained 2 drops of Titan Dragon blood. Immortal's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He checked his backpack and saw that there were indeed 2 small bottles there. He opened the bottles and absorbed the 2 drops of blood. Next, he continued to look for desolate beasts. Another half an hour later, he found a level 1 desolate beast. Against a level 1 desolate beast, Immortal killed it with just 1 punch. The system's notification sounded in his mind again. Killed 1 level 1 desolate beast, obtained 1 drop of Titan Dragon blood. In the following day, Immortal killed more than 50 desolate beasts. Most of them were below level 2. He obtained as many as 83 drops of Titan Dragon blood. Including the 8 drops he received from signing in, he had a total of 92 drops. This was more than 10 times the amount he obtained in a day. After consuming all the blood, Immortal felt that the energy in his body was surging. Every muscle in his body was filled with strength. At this rate, he would be able to level up again in at most a month. But Immortal was still not satisfied. It was not that he was not killing the desolate beasts fast enough. Most importantly, there were not that many level 1 and level 2 desolate beasts on the first hunting island. There were many level 5 desolate beasts, But with Imo-Shi's current strength, he could not fight them alone with his bare hands. It seemed that he had to find a place with more level 1 and level 2 desolate beasts. The place with the most level 1 and level 2 desolate beasts was naturally the second hunting ground. On the planet where the second hunting ground was located, the highest level was a level 2 desolate beast. So if Imo-Shi went there, not only would his life not be in danger, but he could also quickly kill the desolate beasts and obtain the Titan dragon blood. As for the base, there were a total of 17 mechas guarding it, which was equivalent to 17 desolate hunters. In addition, the Dragon Palace could defend against any attack below the level of a desolate hunter. At the same time, it could kill any enemy below the level of a desolate hunter. So there was no need to worry. To go to any hunting ground, tickets were required. And the tickets were not cheap. To go to the second hunting island, a ticket cost 20,000. Chapter 256. A ticket to the second hunting ground cost 20,000. This was indeed a little expensive. However, one should not forget that Imo-Shi had taken over the first hunting island. Naturally, he had taken over everything that had been on the island. That included Belki's cash and electronic currency. All of Belki's assets, including fixed assets, more than 100 million in electronic currency, and more than 2 million in cash. The electronic currency required facial recognition to be used. However, after more than 10 days of research, Little Monk had cracked the facial recognition program. He had replaced Belki's face with Imo-Shi's. Therefore, Imo-Shi was now a millionaire with 100 million and 2 million in cash. Of course, as the owner of the island, this amount of money was indeed a little embarrassing. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Belki had not managed his business well. He had squandered tens of billions of cash to this amount. However, with 100 million in cash, he was definitely an overlord on the mainland. Moreover, one should not forget that there was a crystal source vein under the first hunting island. It was worth a lot of money. Before going to the second hunting island, Imo-Shi gathered everyone in the base. He said to these people, "I have a way to greatly increase your strength in a short period of time. You will be comparable to a level 10 great hunter." Everyone was overjoyed when they heard this. Among them, the strongest was only a level 2 great hunter. If he wanted to become a level 10 great hunter, it would take him at least 3 to 5 years to do so. As for the others, it was needless to say. Now that Mr. Mo could help them become level 10 great hunters in a short period of time, how could they not be excited? Of course, there were smart people among these people. They quickly raised a question. "Mr. Mo, there must be a condition to become a level 10 great hunter in a short period of time, right?" Imo-Shi nodded and said, "Of course. There is only one condition to become a level 10 great hunter in a short period of time, and that is to become a blood kindred." Blood kindred. This. Hearing Imo-Shi's words, everyone's heart shuddered. They were very excited when they heard that they could become level 10 great hunters in a short period of time. However, the price of this condition was too high. "Mr. Mo, after becoming a member of the Blood Clan, do you have to drink human blood continuously?" Imo-Shi pointed at the curvaceous Emma. "This Emma has the most right to speak." Emma took a step forward. Every step she took revealed the fatal seduction of a mature woman. Although she did not deliberately seduce anyone, she was born with this kind of temperament. There was no other way. Many of the men below felt their throats dry up when they saw Emma. In the face of such a woman, there was no man who wouldn't be moved. Even if this woman was a vampire. Even the little monk's eyes lit up. However, those men quickly lowered their heads. She did not dare to look at Emma again. In their eyes, Emma was Mr. Mo's woman. Even though her relationship with Mr. Mo was not as close as Happy's relationship with Mr. Mo. However, any man would be tempted by such a woman who exuded a fatal temptation from head to toe. Mr. Mo was no exception. In that case, she was naturally Mr. Mo's woman. Who dared to have designs on Mr. Mo's woman? Wasn't that just courting death? Thinking of this, they didn't even dare to look at Emma. The little monk also put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice. "Amitba, it's all in vain." Emma glanced at the people below. Her voice was also full of temptation, although she was only speaking in a normal tone. After advancing to a level 10 super mutant vampire, the desire for human blood in your heart will be greatly reduced. You can completely use the blood of other creatures to replace human blood. Although human blood is still delicious in the eyes of level 10 super mutant vampires, it is not indispensable. As a former human, I can completely resist this temptation. Immortal spoke at this moment. When I first found Emma, she was forcefully turned into a vampire. At that time, she was only a level 1 vampire. For level 1 vampires, human blood is a necessity. But at that time, she would rather starve to death than taste a mouthful of human blood that was delivered to her mouth. If even Emma could resist when she had to suck blood at level 1, then when you become level 10 super mutant vampires, human blood is not a necessity. Could it be that you still can't resist? When the people below heard this, they all looked ashamed. Emma continued speaking. After becoming a vampire, there is one greatest benefit: immortality. As long as you continue to suck blood and maintain your body's condition, then you will have almost endless life. This sentence reminded everyone, and many people's eyes lit up. Although they already knew that the legendary vampires were almost immortal, but they did not really believe it. Even monsters like zombies would rot after hundreds of years. Naturally, vampires would not be spared. But now, hearing it from a vampire personally, they finally believed it a little. That was an endless life. Who did not want to live forever? Immortal looked at the people below, and each of their eyes lit up. He continued speaking. Of course, I will not force you. Everything will be voluntary. There are only 100 people in the first batch. If anyone wants to be turned into a vampire in the future, we will talk about it later. When everyone heard Immortal's words, they all raised their hands. Mr. Mo, I want to become a vampire. Mr. Mo, I want it too. Among them, the most enthusiastic ones were those who were still rank 1 and rank 2 hunters. They saw that the people around them had all become stronger, but because of their lack of talent, they had been stuck at level 1 or 2. Now that there was a chance to become a level 10 hunter, how could they not be excited? Immortal waved at Guojutao and gave him 100 small bottles. He said, "Pick 100 people and give each of them a bottle." Guojutao nodded and said, "Yes, Mr. Mo." So that night, there were 100 level 10 super mutant vampires in the base. Soon, these 100 people would become level 1 evolved vampires. At that time, the base's strength would be greatly improved. After doing all this, Immortal said to Emma, "It seems that your strength can only increase quickly by sucking more blood, and it must be the blood of creatures that are on par with you or beyond your strength." Emma nodded. "Yes, master." Immortal said, "With your strength, it will be too difficult to deal with the level 5 wild beasts on the island. Come with me to a place tomorrow." Emma had no objections. "Yes, master." The next morning, Immortal told Happy that he would be away for a few days. Even though Happy was reluctant to part with him, he still supported Immortal. He told Immortal to go and come back early. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Immortal took Emma and her son and left the base. When people saw the three of them leave, they all thought to themselves, "She really is Mr. Mo's woman." Some people muttered in their hearts, "Won't Happy be jealous?" When they turned around, they saw that Happy had already gone to the farm to work. Happy felt that the others were getting stronger quickly, but he was still an ordinary person. If he couldn't help much, he could only go to the farm. So he worked on the farm every day. The farm was named after her, Happy Farm. Chapter 257. The sun hung high in the sky above the blue sea. Immortal and Emma spent more than 5 hours flying across the sea and arrived at Hunting Island number 2. Hunting Island number 2 was about the same size as Hunting Island number 1. However, compared to the deserted Hunting Island number 1, Hunting Island number 2 was as busy as a marketplace. After all, there were countless level 1 and level 2 wild beasts in Hunting Ground number 1. It was suitable for level 1 to level 2 hunters to train here. Level 1 and level 2 hunters were the most numerous in the Flaming Land. When Immortal and Emma landed on hunting island number 1, they attracted a lot of attention. To be exact, it was Emma who attracted a lot of attention. The feminine charm that she exuded with every movement was truly irresistible. Of course, Immortal had noticed this. He frowned slightly. He didn't think it through. He wanted to let Emma improve her strength. However, looking at the current situation, it might cause some trouble. Although he wasn't a person who was afraid of trouble, he was afraid of trouble. Sigh, forget it. Since he's already here, let him be. As they walked forward with the crowd, they saw that the entire hunting island number 2 had all kinds of facilities. Entertainment, dining, leisure, socializing, everything was there. Immortal wasn't interested in these. He brought Emma and went straight to the ticketing hall. They used their real names to buy tickets. The monk had already forged Immortal and Emma's information on the internet. At this moment, there were already long lines at more than 10 ticketing windows. Immortal brought Emma and her son to the back of one of the lines. In front of them was a beautiful girl in her 20s. When she inadvertently turned around and saw Emma, she couldn't help but be stunned. Then, a hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes. She thought that she was already very beautiful, but in front of this woman, she actually felt a sense of inferiority. Emma didn't care about this. After a while, 5 people came from the line next to her. An insufferably arrogant young man and 4 middle-aged men. Immortal secretly used the blood dragon's eye to look at the 5 of them. The young man was a level 1 hunter. Of the 4 middle-aged men behind him, 3 were level 6 scavengers and 1 was a level 4 psychic master. It was obvious that he was a young master from some major power who was here to gain experience. The 4 bodyguards around him were there to protect him. The young man glanced at the people in the ticketing hall and seemed a little impatient. But when he glanced at Emma, he suddenly looked away. He looked at Emma from head to toe. Especially when he saw Emma's curvaceous figure from the side, his eyes couldn't help but flicker with a certain flame. He had played with many women, but he had never seen one with such a beautiful figure and such a beautiful face. "Beauty, do you want to team up with me later?" He couldn't help but ask. Emma didn't even look at her. The young man sneered inwardly. He had seen too many women who pretended to be aloof. As long as he threw out some temptation, these women would rush to curry favor with him. They were all the same. He spoke again. "Beauty, I'm afraid it's not safe for you to bring a child with you. Why don't we team up? Let me introduce myself. My surname is Cheng and my name is Bao. Others call me Third Young Master Cheng. Have you heard of the Cheng family? The top 100 forces in Yuzhou." As soon as he said this, some people around looked over. It turned out to be the Cheng family, one of the top 100 forces in Yuzhou. Each of the top 100 forces in Yuzhou had at least one desolate hunter. The Cheng family of Yuzhou was ranked 84th among the forces in Yuzhou. It didn't seem to be ranked high, but Yuzhou was very big. Among them, there were more than 30,000 forces, big and small. Among so many forces, those who could be ranked in the top 100 definitely had real strength. When the people around knew that Cheng Bao was the 3rd young master of the Cheng family of Yuzhou, they all had a kind smile on their faces. "So it's 3rd young Master Cheng. Sorry for the disrespect. Hello, 3rd young Master Cheng. I visited the Cheng family of Yuzhou a month ago." "3rd young Master Cheng, you don't have to pay later. I'll pay for your ticket." Cheng Bao listened to the flattery around him and showed a satisfied expression. Then he looked at Emma. "The 4 people behind me are all level 5 desolate hunters. They can definitely keep you and your child safe. So I suggest that you form a team." Emma didn't even look at him and said coldly, "Not interested." Hearing this, 3rd young Master Cheng's face darkened. He didn't introduce himself just now and was rejected by this woman. He could only say that she didn't know his identity. Now that she knew his identity, she still dared to reject him. This made 3rd young Master Cheng feel that he had lost face in front of so many people. He snorted coldly, "Good, you have guts." But in his heart, he said, "When we reach the 2nd hunting ground, you will beg me." When the surrounding people saw that this woman actually rejected 3rd young Master Cheng, they all tried to flatter 3rd young Master Cheng. "It's not easy for you to take care of a child. Why don't you form a team with Third Young Master Cheng? The strong people behind Third Young Master Cheng can protect your son. You can also train without worry. Alas, why do you have to compete with yourself? Take a step back and you will have a better view. Emma continued to ignore these people. After queuing for more than 10 minutes, Immortal and the others bought the tickets. They had signed a life and death contract. In the hunting ground, it was inevitable that there would be casualties. The life and death contract stated that the casualties in the hunting ground had nothing to do with the hunting ground. Then, they came to the teleportation hall and were teleported to the second hunting ground. The second hunting ground was called the Night Ghost Planet. The place where Immortal and the others were teleported to was a wasteland. In the sky, there was a pale white setting sun. Looking around, the ground was filled with rocks of various sizes. There was not even a single plant. Before coming to the hunting ground, these people had basically read about the strategy of the second hunting ground on the internet. They knew that this wasteland looked peaceful during the day, as if there was nothing there. But at night it was extremely dangerous. Therefore, they had to leave this place as soon as they were teleported here. The people who had just been teleported here activated their hover skates and left quickly. Immortal and Emma were the only ones who didn't leave. They stayed where they were. When the beautiful girl who stood in front of Emma saw this, her eyes flashed with a hint of gloating. Then she left quickly. Third Young Master Cheng saw Immortal and Emma together. He finally understood why this woman ignored him just now. He opened his mouth slightly and was about to say something to Immortal. But a level 6 hunter beside him reminded him. Third Young Master, we are here to train this time. Master said not to cause any trouble. Seeing this, Third Young Master Cheng snorted coldly. They are lucky. Then he activated his hover skates and flew into the distance. Third Young Master Cheng did not know that he had just walked around the gates of hell. Chapter 258. Third Young Master Cheng did not know that he had just taken a trip around the gates of hell. The others had not gone far, so Immortal did not make a move. Otherwise, based on what Third Young Master Cheng had said just now, Immortal would have killed him long ago. Third Young Master Cheng? Top 100 factions in Yuzhou? In front of Immortal, he was just an ant. After Immortal waited for those people to leave, he glanced at the white sun on the horizon. The white sun had already set on a mountain in the distance. On the other side, a pale green moon rose. This moon was bigger than the moons on Earth and the flaming beginning continent. It took up a third of the sky. The entire ground was dyed a pale green. When the white sun in the west finally set behind the mountain, on the ground in the distance, a rock the size of a human head suddenly rolled to the side. A shriveled hand was revealed. This hand was pale white and did not seem to have any flesh. It was just pale skin wrapped around bones. This hand clawed the ground and exerted force. The entire pale arm broke free from the ground. Then, a second arm broke free. Then the head and the entire body. This was a humanoid monster. The monster's skin was pale white. From the looks of it, he was just skin and bones. Through the skin, one could clearly see the ribs. Its head was so thin that it almost looked like a skeleton. Its eyeballs were completely white. The fingers on both hands were more than a foot long and looked extremely sharp. Immortal opened the blood dragon's eye and looked at this thing. Species, Night Ghost. Level 1 evolved. Ability, absorb energy. Immortal understood that the Night Ghost was a major feature of the second hunting ground. Among the few viruses in the second hunting ground, the most common one was the Night Ghost virus. Any human or animal infected with the Night Ghost virus would turn a ghastly white. That was why they were also called white ghosts. After being infected with the Night Ghost virus, these creatures would become extremely bloodthirsty. Moreover, when they bit uninfected creatures, they could absorb the energy of these creatures. Therefore, the Night Ghosts were very dangerous to the hunters. A level 1 Night Ghost was equivalent to a level 1 scavenger. This was exactly what Immortal needed right now. When the Night Ghost discovered Immortal, it immediately let out a roar. Its roar was very strange, like the sound of an old wooden door being turned. Jiggy. The next moment, it pounced straight at Immortal. Immortal's figure leaped, using the dragon shadow step. He instantly leaped 10 kilometers high in the sky. Seeing this, Emma quickly extended a pair of blood-red wings from her back. Then, it flapped its wings and flew into the air with its son. She had seen how violent her master's physical strength was. If his son was still down there, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the aftershocks. The night ghost looked up and saw Immortal descending from the sky. The two rows of teeth were constantly colliding with each other, making a ga sound. Then, it also leaped straight towards Immortal, who was falling from the sky. However, it had only reached 50 meters. Immortal's fist had already landed on its head. Boom! The huge force smashed the night ghost to the ground. A huge pit with a diameter of 100 meters appeared on the ground. Emma, who was in the sky, saw this huge pit and was amazed. Her master didn't use any energy. Just his physical strength was enough to create such a huge pit in the ground. His strength was really terrifying. At this moment, she looked at the night ghost in the pit. It didn't look like a ghost at all. Its head had long exploded into a pile of mush. The energy in its body had long been depleted. Naturally, it couldn't be healed. One punch killed a level 1 night ghost. Even though Emma knew that her master was very strong, she didn't expect him to be this strong. Without using telekinesis or energy, he killed a level 1 night ghost with just physical strength. At the same time, a notification sounded in Immortal's mind. Frowny face killed 1 level 1 night ghost. Received 1 drop of Titan dragon blood. Then the second night ghost crawled out. Immortal killed it with another punch. Then the third, fourth, and fifth. More and more. At first, Immortal could deal with them alone. He killed one after another. But soon, more and more night ghosts crawled out. Immortal couldn't deal with them alone. Emma also started to make her move. Emma dealt with these level 1 evolved night ghosts with ease. However, she used her own energy and the telekinesis of a level 1 psychic to kill these night ghosts easily. But as time passed, there were more and more night ghosts here. 50, 100, 500. Thousands of night ghosts. They completely surrounded Immortal and Emma. This was why the guides on the internet said not to come to this hell wasteland at night. Generally, those who came here for experience were basically level 1 or level 2 hunters. They could deal with 1 or 2 night ghosts. If there were more than 10, they would die. Naturally, they didn't dare to stay in this hell wasteland for long. But Immortal was different. He used his dragon will to cover a radius of 50 meters. These night ghosts couldn't break through his dragon will barrier at all. He only let 10 night ghosts in each time. He killed them one by one with a punch. Gradually, he killed more and more night ghosts. 10, 50, 100, 500. When this 50-meter radius was filled with night ghosts' corpses and there was no place to stand, Immortal had already obtained more than 1,000 drops of blood. Emma, on the other hand, had only killed less than 100 night ghosts. Immortal swallowed these 1,000 drops of blood. He only felt the energy in his body surging. He could clearly feel that as long as he did it again, he would be able to improve again. They moved forward 500 meters. Immortal used his dragon will to throw all the night ghosts within a radius of 50 meters outside, clearing out an empty space. Once again, he formed a dragon will barrier to keep these night ghosts outside. He put in 11 at a time. He dealt with 10, Emma dealt with 1. Gradually, the eastern sky began to turn white. And Immortal had already killed more than 1,000 night ghosts again. He obtained more than 1,000 drops of Titan dragon blood. He swallowed these 1,000 drops of Titan dragon blood. The energy in his body skyrocketed again. He could clearly feel that he was only a hair's breadth away from leveling up. At most, he was 7 or 8 drops of Titan dragon blood away. At this time, because the sky was bright, some of the night ghosts around had already burrowed into the ground again. Some continued to try to pounce on Immortal and the others, wanting to eat Immortal and the others before the sun came out. Immortal's lips curled up. With a move of his dragon will, a gap opened in the dragon will barrier. Ga 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 ga. Another 10 night ghosts screamed and rushed in. Chapter 259. Immortal watched as the 10 night ghosts rushed in. His eyes shone brightly. He leaped up and rushed down. One punch. Boom! The head of one of the night ghosts exploded. Another punch. Boom! The head of the second night ghost also exploded. A moment later, only the last night ghost was left. Immortal leaped up. At a height of 10,000 meters, the sun in the east had already illuminated his cheeks. He jumped down. Boom! This punch landed heavily on the head of the last night ghost. The huge impact smashed the entire head of the night ghost into the ground. The shockwave sent the thousands of night ghost corpses flying high into the air. They fell like hailstones. Pa 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 pa. They fell to the ground. Another notification popped up in his mind. Frowny face killed one level 1 evolved night ghost. Obtained 1 drop of giant dragon blood. Immortal took out the 10 drops of giant dragon blood from the system space and swallowed them. It was also at this moment that the feeling of his body heating up appeared again. His skin quickly turned red. His eyes also turned fiery red. The temperature of his body was rising. Even Emma, who was beside him, could clearly feel the high temperature of Immortal's body. She looked at Immortal in surprise and asked, "Master, are you okay?" Immortal did not answer her. He just stood there motionless like a wooden sculpture. Seeing this, Emma quickly observed her surroundings carefully, to prevent other night ghosts from breaking in. Fortunately, although Immortal was leveling up, his dragon will did not relax. Those night ghosts could not break through Immortal's dragon will barrier at all. In addition, the sun had already risen, although the pale white sun did not seem to have any heat. But these night ghosts scattered in all directions and burrowed into the ground in fear. Some of the night ghosts who burrowed late immediately burst into flames when the sun shone on their bodies. They let out strange screams from their throats. Crunch, crunch, they burrowed into the ground. For a moment, the wasteland that was filled with night ghosts returned to silence in a very short period of time. Complete silence. Not even the slightest sound of wind could be heard. On the wasteland, only 2 huge circles with a radius of 50 meters were left. Corpses of the night ghosts were strewn all over the place. After death, night ghosts would not burn when exposed to sunlight. Finally, the fiery red color on Immortal's body slowly receded. He finally moved again. Emma heaved a sigh of relief. At this time, Immortal had been promoted to a level 3 hunter. Immortal, a level 3 hunter, could crush a hunter of the same level with his physical strength. Looking around, it was a boundless wilderness. Then, he looked at the 2,000 night ghosts' corpses in the 2 giant circles. Immortal was secretly delighted. At this rate, he would only need to stay here for another week at most to raise his strength by another level. It seemed like it was the right decision to come to the second hunting ground. Emma's son opened his mouth repeatedly. Although she had followed Emma and seen many monsters and massacres, she was not afraid of these night ghosts. But she was just an ordinary person now. She had not slept the whole night and was very sleepy. Emma took out some dry food for her son to eat. Immortal took out the dragon's cave. The dragon's cave quickly expanded. After the 3 of them entered the dragon's cave, it disappeared in the air as if it had never existed. At the same time, some of the other hunters who came in with Immortal were injured, and some were even on the verge of death. Although they had escaped the wasteland, night ghosts were everywhere on planet Night Ghosts. Although there were not as many night ghosts in other places, there were still quite a few. When these people were training, they would often encounter 3 to 5, dozens, or even hundreds of night ghosts. Many of them had gone through a night of fighting and killed a few night ghosts. When the night ghosts burrowed into the ground at dawn, they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The beautiful girl who was jealous of Emma's appearance also had a few wounds on her body after a night of fighting. Her hair was messy, and one of her sleeves was torn off, revealing her fair arm. She looked very haggard. Fortunately, she had brought some medicine. After taking it, the virus was expelled from her body. Otherwise, it would not be long before she became a night ghost. Among these people, the most comfortable was third young Master Cheng. Although he'd encountered quite a few night ghosts, he'd brought 4 powerful followers with him. When he encountered danger that he could not avoid, The 4 followers would help him deal with it. But even so, he had been running for his life the whole night. After all, the 4 followers would only help when he could not avoid danger. At this moment he was sitting on a rock by the river, panting. Even though he was a level 1 hunter, after a night of fighting and running he was almost exhausted. A follower next to him handed him a water bag. He gulped down a few mouthfuls. He said, "Can we go back now?" A follower shook his head. "Third young master, the master said that we have to train for at least a month before we can go back." Third young master Cheng spat out the water in his mouth. "What? A month? You might as well kill me. So I'm not your biological son at all?" The 4 followers did not dare to answer. Third young master Cheng saw that the 4 of them were determined to make him stay here for a month. He knew that it was useless to protest. He could only shake his head. "Forget it. A month it is. Anyway, with you guys here, I won't die. It's just that I can't touch women for a month. It's too much." Speaking of this, he thought of the woman from yesterday, who had exuded a fatal temptation with every move she made. That woman was really tsk. But when he thought of that woman following that pretty boy, he could not help but get angry. That pretty boy was so stupid to stay in the hell wasteland with that woman. One had to know that even his 4 followers would have no chance of survival in the hell wasteland. If they stayed there, they would definitely die. If that pretty boy died, then so be it. If that stupid child died, then so be it. It was just a pity for that woman. At the same time, at the coordinates of the hell wasteland, more than 100 blue and white light balls slowly condensed into human figures. This was the first batch of trainees of the day. After they appeared, someone looked at the wasteland full of big and small stones and shouted with a sense of novelty. "Wow, is this the hell wasteland? It's really the same as what the guide said." An 18-year-old girl said, "The hell wasteland is peaceful during the day, but ghosts roam at night. Even level 6 and level 7 hunters don't dare to spend the night here. So everyone better leave before the sun sets." Everyone nodded. But at this time, someone suddenly said, "What's that?" Chapter 260. In broad daylight on the wasteland of hell. Rocks of all sizes stretched as far as the eye could see. At the teleportation coordinates, more than 100 cultivators had just teleported over. Someone suddenly pointed into the distance and exclaimed, "What's that?" Everyone looked in the direction of his finger. There were 2 piles of things there. Upon closer inspection, they found that they were actually 2 piles of night ghost corpses. Everyone came to the 2 piles of corpses in surprise. They saw that each pile of corpses was a perfect circle. It was 100 meters in diameter. Thousands of night specter corpses were scattered all over the place within this 100-meter circle. Apart from a small number of corpses that were killed by sharp claws and energy, most of the corpses had their heads blown off. Everyone was astonished. There are so many night ghost corpses. Did someone kill them here last night? A blonde blurted out subconsciously, "What a joke. Staying here at night is simply courting death. Maybe someone killed them somewhere else and moved these corpses here." Another person asked, "What's the purpose?" "Who knows? Maybe it's just a prank." The blonde shrugged and said nonchalantly. However, a refined young man analyzed with a solemn expression. "My father has been a private investigator for many years. I've learned a lot from him. Judging from the blood on the ground, this is the first scene." The blonde curled his lips. "Tsk. How do you prove it?" The refined young man pushed up his glasses and said, "Listen to me. I'll prove it to you." He looked at the multifunction watch on his wrist. "It's 7:05. It's only been 13 minutes since sunrise. If they were moved here from somewhere else, who could move more than 2,000 corpses here in 13 minutes? So I'm sure that this is the first scene." When the yellow-haired man heard this, he felt a little embarrassed and argued forcefully. "Maybe they moved here all day yesterday." The refined young man smiled and shook his head. "That's even more impossible. Judging from the blood on these night ghosts, they must have died not long ago. It can't be yesterday." The blonde youth braced himself and said, "This is all your imagination, fabricating something out of thin air, creating something out of nothing. According to you, an expert stayed here for a night and killed more than 2,000 night ghosts? The refined young man nodded. That's right. With that, he flipped one of the night ghosts over and carefully examined the wound. This wound is definitely not caused by a sharp weapon or energy. It's a blunt weapon, and it's very likely a fist. Then he checked another corpse. Slightly surprised, he said, "One punch to the head." He flipped over another corpse and said, "One punch to the head." He continued to flip through the pages. One punch to the head. One punch to the head. It's still a headshot. Then he looked at the huge pits around him, and his voice was filled with surprise. There were two of them. One of them had sharp claws as his weapon, while the other had fists. Most of the night ghosts were killed by the man with his fists. When the yellow-haired man heard this, he couldn't help but laugh loudly. It was as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. You're saying that there are people who don't use energy or weapons? He killed over 1,000 level 1 evolved night ghosts with just his fists? The refined young man pushed up his glasses and nodded solemnly. When everyone heard this, they were all shocked. That's impossible. To be able to do this, I'm afraid his strength has already reached level 7 or level 8. Someone immediately retorted, level 7 or level 8 hunters should go to the 7th and 8th hunting grounds. Why would they waste their precious time in the first hunting ground? For example, if you're a level 2 hunter now, would you waste your time in the first hunting ground? There's not even a level 1 wild beast there. This person's words attracted the agreement of many others. For a hunter, time was very precious. Other than the daily training, they would go to various places to adventure and gain experience. High-level hunters would not go to low-level hunting grounds at all, because there was no benefit to them at all, and it would waste a lot of time. Someone said, that means that this hunter is very likely a hunter who specializes in strengthening his body. The refined young man nodded. The yellow-haired man chuckled and said, even if it's a hunter who specializes in strengthening his body, it's impossible for him to spend the night in the Hell Wasteland. After all, even a level 5 or level 6 hunter wouldn't dare to spend the night here. So what you said is bullshit. The refined young man smiled and said, after following my father as a detective for so many years, the only feeling I have is that the world is big and there are all kinds of strange things. Anything illogical can happen. If you want to prove that I'm lying, you can stay here with me tonight. I reckon that the hunter will come here again tonight. The yellow-haired man scolded, you're crazy. Then he stepped on his hover boots and flew away. Who would dare to spend the night here? Even if there were more than 100 of them, they wouldn't dare to stay here for a night. Let alone a night, they wouldn't even dare to stay for a minute. The rest of the people were all looking forward to meeting that mysterious expert. If there's really such a person, I'd like to meet him. Yeah, he could kill a level 1 evolved night ghost with just his fists. Such a person is worth befriending. It's a pity that none of us dare to stay here for the night. As they spoke, they activated their hover boots one after another. In groups of 3 to 5, they flew into the distance. That night, not long after the sun set, a pale green moon had already risen in the east. It was like a green monster that wanted to devour the earth. It made people feel nervous just by looking at it. The night ghosts crawled out of the ground one after another. 10,000 ghosts roamed at night, wailing and howling like ghosts. It was like hell. At this moment, the space somewhere suddenly distorted. A 100-meter-tall mountain appeared out of thin air. There was a cave at the top of the mountain. 3 people jumped out of the cave. It was Immortal and the other 2. When they jumped out, the mountain shrunk to the size of a walnut and returned to Immortal's palm. With a thought, Immortal put it back into his backpack. When the tens of thousands of night ghosts saw Immortal and the others appear, they all screamed. They were like a group of monkeys that had rushed into a peach garden. He was so excited that his eyes were shining. Their 2 rows of teeth kept colliding, making a strange sound. Jiggy, jiggy. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws and pounced at Immortal and the others. Just like last night, Immortal threw the extra night ghosts out with Dragon Will. Only 10 night ghosts were left. These 10 night ghosts were not only not afraid when they saw the other night ghosts being thrown out, but were also very excited. After all, there were too many ghosts and too little meat. There wasn't enough to go around. Now that there were only 10 night ghosts left, each of them could eat their fill. Chapter 261. He watched as the 10 night ghosts pounced over. Immortal no longer needed to jump into the air. After advancing to level 3, his strength had increased by dozens of times. He stomped on the ground with his right foot, and his body shot out like an arrow. He jumped more than 20 meters in an instant. He was so fast that it completely exceeded the night ghost's reaction speed. By the time the night ghosts reacted, Immortal's fist had already smashed into their heads. Bang! The night ghost's head exploded. Then, Immortal dodged the attacks of 2 night ghosts. His upper body spun half a circle. Using the force of the rotation, he exerted force with his right elbow. He hit a night ghost's head. Crack! Under Immortal's immense strength, the night ghost was sent flying 100 meters away. Its head didn't cave in, but exploded. The third night ghost was about to bite him. Immortal retreated 1,000 meters with the Dragon Shadow Step. Then he used the Dragon Shadow Step again and leaped toward the night ghost. When he arrived in front of the night ghost, he raised his right knee and hit the night ghost's head. Behind the night ghost, another night ghost pounced over. Crack crack. 2 sounds in a row. This attack had insta-killed 2 night ghosts. Then he punched and kicked and quickly finished off the remaining night ghosts. It only took 30 seconds to kill 10 night ghosts. Compared to last night, this efficiency was greatly increased. This was the increase in Immortal's strength after advancing. Emma, who was beside him, was secretly surprised when she saw this. Although her master was very good at dealing with the night ghosts last night, it was far from being as efficient as now. Could it be that her master's strength had increased again in just one day? This speed of improvement was too terrifying. Immortal killed 10 night ghosts. Looking at his fist, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Awesome!" The feeling of being filled with power made him exclaim. This time, he directly put in 20 night ghosts. Just like before, he dealt with the 20 night ghosts in just a few moves. Then he put in 30 night ghosts at once. An hour later, he could already deal with 50 night ghosts at the same time. This way, his speed of killing night ghosts greatly increased. In one night, they had killed more than 13,000 night ghosts. As a result, he obtained more than 13,000 drops of dragon blood. Looking at his backpack full of WRM blood, Immortal was pleasantly surprised. This was similar to the feeling of farming monsters at the spawn point when he was playing private server games. There was only one word to describe it: awesome. Seeing that the sun had risen, all the night ghosts that were still alive began to return to the surface. Immortal and Emma also returned to the dragon's den. After consuming more than 10,000 drops of Titan dragon blood, the energy in Immortal's body had increased significantly. Now, the energy in his body was at least 100 times stronger than that of a hunter at the same level. Even if he didn't use the dragon will, he could easily kill opponents of the same level with just his energy and physical strength. At the same time, at the coordinates outside, today's first batch of trainees had arrived. When they arrived at this hellish wasteland, everyone was stunned for a few seconds. Corpses of night ghosts littered the ground around the coordinates. Preliminary estimates showed that there were about 15,000 of them. Damn, what's going on? My dad told me that the night ghosts in the hellish wasteland are all very terrifying. But it doesn't look like it. Could it be that a powerful senior has come here? Your senior is willing to come to the second hunting ground to waste his time? Just as they were exclaiming in amazement, 5 people also flew over from afar. They were the first batch of trainees who had arrived yesterday. One of them was the bespectacled private detective. They were all shocked when they saw the corpses of night ghosts piled up all over the ground. He was here again last night. He killed more than 10,000 of them in one night, and he killed them with his physical strength. Isn't this 2F** King exaggerated? Someone hurriedly said, "Watch your words. Be careful not to let that mysterious expert overhear you." The man quickly stuck out his tongue, looked around, and said, Mysterious expert, I'm sorry. Mysterious expert, I'm sorry. I'm just expressing my feelings. I don't mean any disrespect to you. Hearing their conversation, the trainees who had arrived today couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Do you know who this expert is?" The bespectacled private detective shook his head. "We don't know. We just saw more than 2,000 night ghosts yesterday and guessed that there was an expert. But we didn't expect him to kill more than 10,000 night ghosts in one night, and all of them were killed with his physical strength." When the crowd heard this, they all revealed looks of admiration. Even the elders in their families who had reached levels 10 would not be able to kill so many level 1 evolved night ghosts in one night with their physical strength alone. After all, one's strength would run out eventually, and the night ghosts here were almost endless. Even a level 10 expert would die of exhaustion if he didn't use his energy. They didn't know that Immortal had recovery potions. If he ran out of strength, he could use dozens of recovery potions to recover his strength in minutes. "Why don't we come over tonight and see who this expert is?" a young man suggested. Everyone's gazes immediately turned to look at him. Children shouldn't talk nonsense. This is the hellish wasteland. Ghosts roam at night. Even if we come together, we can only last a few minutes. "You think you're that mysterious expert?" The young man also realized that he had said something wrong. He shook his head and smiled. No. How can I compare to the mysterious expert? At the same time, 300 kilometers away, in a cave on a mountain, third young Master Cheng's hair was disheveled, and his clothes were almost tattered. He lay on the ground in the cave, not even bothering to take the water that a follower offered him. He was gasping for air. He cursed his father in his heart. Why did he send him to such a lousy place? Experience? Experience your sister. If he continued training like this, he would die in a few days. He was unlucky last night. The 3 waves of night ghosts he encountered were all level 2 night ghosts. The 4 dead people next to him, other than helping him when he was in absolute danger, were just watching from the side. He watched helplessly as a group of night ghosts chased him all over the mountains and plains. Fortunately, he had brought a few life-saving items with him before he left. Otherwise, even if he wasn't killed by the night ghosts, he would be exhausted from running for his life. As for killing the night ghosts, damn, they were all level 2 night ghosts. How could he, a level 1 hunter, kill them? What? You said you were fighting above your level. Only perverts would do such a thing. How could a normal person like him do such a thing? Chapter 262. For the next 3 days, Immortal killed the night ghosts in the Hell Wasteland almost every night. Every morning, there would be 10 to 20,000 night ghosts' corpses left on the wasteland. Every day, those who entered the second hunting ground would see the ground covered with night ghosts' corpses. They were all very curious. Who did this? But no one dared to stay and find out at night. But everyone knew that a mysterious expert had appeared in the second hunting ground. Immortal thought that this situation would continue and that he would reach level 3 in a few days. But on this night, Immortal found that the number of night ghosts in the Hell Wasteland had decreased sharply compared to before. At most, there were only 3,000 of them. After Immortal killed all the night ghosts, no more night ghosts crawled out. For the rest of the night, there was not even a single night ghost. Immortal was puzzled. Logically speaking, there should be an endless number of night ghosts under the wasteland. Why didn't they come out? Was it because they were scared of him? In fact, Immortal's guess was right. Although these night ghosts had limited intelligence, they were not brainless. In the first few days, they thought that no matter how strong these humans were, they could eat them with their advantage in numbers. But as time passed, they were horrified to find that this human was a complete monster. Even if there were 10 or 100 times more of them, they would not be able to eat them. Not only could they not eat them, but if they went in groups, they would just be delivering themselves to the night ghosts. So, these night ghosts stopped appearing. Immortal saw that there were no more night ghosts. He could only shrug helplessly. He said to Emma, "Let's go check out other places." According to the previous guide, Immortal knew that there was another place on planet Night Ghost that had countless night ghosts. That was the death swamp. Immortal turned on his multifunction watch and opened the navigation function. The little monk had already saved the map of planet Night Ghost into his multifunction watch. Immortal said, "Go to the death swamp." The multifunction watch activated the scanning function and scanned the surrounding terrain, quickly matching it to the map. Then, the mechanical female voice sounded, "You are 53,323 kilometers away from the death swamp. Please choose a mode of travel, walk, fly, or take a vehicle." "Fly," Immortal said. Soon, an almost straight route appeared on the virtual screen of the map. Immortal and Emma flew in the direction of the death swamp under the illumination of the pale green moon that took up a third of the sky. Along the way, Immortal saw groups of night ghosts appearing on the ground and landing from time to time. Kill these night ghosts. After flying for about 10 minutes, 3 night ghosts appeared beside a lake below. Immortal's blood dragon's eye swept across. Species, Night Ghost, Level 2 Evolution. The 3 night ghosts were all Level 2 evolved night ghosts. Immortal retracted his blood dragon wings and plummeted from the sky. Taking advantage of the falling momentum, he threw a punch at one of the night ghosts. The night ghosts reacted quickly as well. Hearing the sound of air being torn apart, Zhang Xian hurriedly raised his head. He saw a black shadow crashing down towards him. He hurriedly turned to the side. However, it was still a little too late. Although the punch was a little off target, it still hit its head. Bang! Its head instantly caved in. At the same time, Immortal's punch also used the inner strength of the ancient fist technique on Earth. The inner strength passed through the night ghost's body and directly shattered the energy bubble that stored energy in its body. As a result, the night ghost's body completely lost its self-healing ability. It collapsed to the ground. When the other 2 night ghosts saw this, their upper and lower rows of teeth kept clattering, making a strange sound. Ga 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 ga. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws and pounced at Immortal. And on the tips of their claws, there was a flash of energy. One of the night ghosts slashed at Immortal with its claws. Immortal dodged to the side. Whoosh! That claw actually released a sharp energy. On the ground behind Immortal, there was a claw mark that was more than 20 meters long and 3 meters wide. This was the difference between a Level 2 evolved night ghost and a Level 1 evolved night ghost. A Level 2 evolved night ghost could release such an energy attack twice. Therefore, a Level 2 evolved night ghost was much stronger than a Level 1 evolved night ghost. However, in front of Immortal's agility, it was impossible for such an attack to hurt him. He had already used the Dragon Shadow Step to jump 10,000 meters. Then he smashed towards the ground. Another punch was thrown at the night ghost's head. The night ghost crossed its arms and wanted to block. Crack, crack, 2 sounds in a row. The first was the sound of the night ghost's arms being broken. The second sound was the sound of the top of its head being smashed inwards. The second night ghost also went limp. When Immortal killed a Level 2 evolved night ghost, although it was not as easy as killing a Level 1 evolved night ghost, he could still kill it with 1 punch by using the height. Then, the third night ghost's head was also dented. He was about to leave. But at this moment, he realized that the night ghost's body was rapidly recovering. Immortal was a little surprised. He had clearly used his inner strength to shatter the energy bubble in the night ghost's abdomen. Logically speaking, it should have lost its self-healing ability. How could it still heal itself? In his surprise, he saw that the night ghost's body was rapidly changing. On its back, spikes that were more than a foot long began to grow. 2 thick horns grew out of its forehead. When Immortal saw this, he was immediately delighted. This night ghost had the night ghost's spirit in its body. Legend had it that there was a 1 in a billion chance that the night ghost spirit would appear in a night ghost's body. The night ghost spirit was very useful. It was said that after consuming it, it could heal injuries. As long as one was not killed on the spot, the night ghost spirit could save them. It could also cure all kinds of terminal diseases. It could also extend a person's life to 500 years. Moreover, after consuming it, one could directly advance to a desolate hunter. Of course, there was a price to pay for using it to advance to a desolate hunter. That was, from then on, the realm was equivalent to being locked. They could no longer advance even by one level. But even so, it still made people scramble for it. After all, on the mainland, most people would never be able to become a desolate hunter in their lifetime. But now, after consuming the night ghost spirit, not only could one directly advance to a desolate hunter, it could also extend one's life to 500 years. How could this not make people go crazy? However, the probability of the night ghost spirit appearing was extremely low. It had appeared once more than 70 years ago, and since then, it had not appeared again. Who would have thought that Immortal would encounter it today? What a fortune! Immortal asked in his mind. System, if I consume the night ghost spirit, will my realm be limited? Chapter 263. Under the pale green moonlight, the night ghost was transforming. More than 10 meters away, Immortal asked in his mind, System, if I consume the night ghost spirit, will my realm be limited? The system's voice sounded frowny-faced. The host's body has been transformed by dragon blood. How can a mere night ghost spirit limit it? Immortal was overjoyed when he heard this. However, the system poured a bucket of cold water on Immortal. However, after consuming the night ghost spirit, the host's bloodline will no longer be pure. Even if you evolve into a titan dragon in the future, the upper limit will be extremely low. There will be no possibility of further evolution. Immortal smiled bitterly when he heard this. If that was the case, forget it. He had the system, and it was only a matter of time before he became a desolate hunter. If he sought temporary success now and limited his future development, he would be too short-sighted. However, the system's words gave Immortal another piece of information. Are you saying that there's an even stronger existence above the Titan Dragon? The system's voice sounded frowny-faced. The Titan Dragon is only the lowest level of existence among the flying dragons. There are stronger dragons above it. Follow the steps set by the system and walk step by step. You will eventually become the most powerful dragon. Immortal was an adult and naturally had his own judgment. Hearing the system's words, he was overwhelmed with emotions and made his choice. The night ghost was now 3 meters tall. And it was still growing. According to legend, after this guy's potential was stimulated, it could grow to 100 meters tall. At that time, whether it was speed, strength, explosive power, or energy, it would be at its peak. Therefore, taking advantage of the time when it was transforming, Immortal leaped. He reached a height of 10,000 meters in an instant. His body flipped and smashed into the ground like a meteor. Boom! This punch landed heavily on the big guy's head. A shockwave spread out for 100 meters. The top of the night ghost's head caved in. At the same time, the energy bubble in its abdomen burst again. But this was not the end. Immortal swung his sharp claws. Swish, 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 swish. A few consecutive claw strikes. The night ghost was cut into several pieces. At the same time, a walnut-sized crystal fell out of the night ghost's body. Above the crystal, energy swirls like white smoke. The energy was still trying to gather the night ghost's flesh and blood to revive it. However, Immortal used his draconic will to suppress the energy within the crystal. The flesh and blood of the night ghosts could no longer gather. Immortal reached out and picked up the crystal. The night ghost spirit was like a hungry wolf that had discovered a flock of sheep. The energy within it kept drilling into Immortal's body. A moment later, it actually tore apart Immortal's left hand and embedded itself into his left hand. Immortal did not feel the slightest bit of pain. At this moment, Immortal's left hand was actually emitting a faint white light. According to what Immortal knew from the memories of others, the night ghost spirit had to be nourished with flesh and blood. Without flesh and blood, it would turn into ashes in just a few minutes. Therefore, once it encountered flesh and blood, it would drill into it. At this moment, if it was not consumed, it would emit a faint white light. Others would know at a glance that it was the night ghost spirit. This was really a hot potato. However, Immortal did not care. With his strength and the sea dragon doppelganger, which had now reached the level of a level 3 strong wild beast, there was no creature on this planet that could be his opponent. just as he put away the night ghost spirit and was about to leave. Not far away, a lazy voice suddenly sounded. "Kid, hand over the night ghost spirit." Along with the voice, 5 people slowly walked out of the darkness. Under the pale green moonlight, one could see that these 5 people were about 40 years old. They were all level 2 hunters. They were only level 2 hunters in their 40s. Although their talent was not too bad, they could only reach level 5 hunters at most in this lifetime. Immortal was not surprised to see these 5 people appear. Before the battle just now, he had already scanned the surroundings with his draconic will. He knew that there were 5 people hiding in the darkness. However, at that time, he had glanced at the strength of these 5 people and ignored them. At this moment, these 5 people were looking at the faint white light on Immortal's left hand with greed in their eyes. The 5 of them had clearly seen this kid pick up a crystal that was emitting a white light. They also guessed that the white crystal was very likely the night ghost spirit. According to previous information, the energy in the body of a person who had just obtained the night ghost spirit would be limited by the night ghost spirit. In battle, they could not use their abilities at all. Therefore, they appeared when Immortal had just obtained the night ghost spirit. "Kid, you just got the night ghost spirit, so you can't use your energy. Hand over the night ghost spirit and I can consider leaving your corpse intact," one of them said. Another's eyes were also shining as he said, "We also saw that your physical strength is very strong. But do you think you can defeat us with just your physical strength?" The third person laughed and said, "Don't worry, we have always been the most law-abiding. We can gang up on you, but we won't fight alone." The fourth person also laughed. His gaze was fixed on Emma, and he had a perverted smile on his face. "I don't have as many thoughts as you guys. Earning big money, night ghost spirit, and being a desolate hunter. I know that I am unlucky and have no fate with these. Therefore, my thoughts are very realistic. I want to take this girl, The fifth person was slightly older. He only said 2 words. "Do it." As soon as he finished speaking, the 5 of them condensed their genetic weapons at the same time. Their genetic weapons glowed with a fiery red light. "Kid, prepare to die," the 5 of them said in unison. Immortal leaped lightly and instantly flashed a kilometer away. The next moment, like a slingshot, he bounced back. At the same time, he kicked with his left and hit the face of the person in front. Bang! That person's head immediately exploded. The other 4 people were shocked. This kid's physical strength was actually so terrifying. "Use your strength," the leader of the desolate hunters hurriedly shouted. However, as soon as his voice fell, Immortal's figure instantly turned around. A whip kick had already landed on that person's face. Bang! That person's head did not explode. Instead, he was sent flying far away. He flew more than 300 meters away. When the remaining 3 people saw this, their expressions changed drastically. They hurriedly turned around and fled. They originally thought that no matter how strong this kid's physical strength was, he would not be able to win against their genetic weapons. In the end, their genetic weapons were not of any use. This kid's speed was too fast and his strength was too strong. They did not even have the chance to use their genetic weapons to attack. Therefore, if they did not flee now, would they just stand there and wait for death? Chapter 264. Immortal killed 2 of them. The remaining 3 immediately regretted it. Although the night ghost spirit was precious, it wasn't worth it compared to their lives. If they lost their lives, what was the use of the night ghost spirit? However, if they wanted to escape at this moment, it was simply a pipe dream. Immortal used Dragon Shadow Step and caught up with them easily. He took care of the 3 of them with 1 punch each. 1 against 5. Without any energy enhancement, he killed the 5 of them in an instant. Although the 5 of them were 1 level lower than Immortal, this was enough to shock him. A system notification popped up in his mind. Frowny face killed 5 level 2 hunters. Received 10 drops of Titan Dragon Blood. Immortal consumed the 10 drops of Titan Dragon Blood. Then he took out a black gauntlet from his backpack and put it on his left hand. On the continent, metal gauntlets, leggings, wrist guards, and so on were very common. Wearing them on his body wouldn't arouse suspicion. The metal gauntlet blocked the light emitted from his left hand. With Immortal's strength, he wasn't afraid of anyone stealing it. But that would still be troublesome. So it was better to cover it. At the same time, Immortal said in his mind, "System, sign in for a special event. Killing a night ghost with the night ghost spirit should be considered a special event." The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face sign in successful. Sign in event, killed one night ghost with the night ghost spirit. Sign in reward, summon night ghosts, 10 night ghost spirit seeds. Immortal carefully looked at the two rewards. Summon night ghosts. Summon night ghosts within a radius of 100 kilometers and make them listen to orders. Night ghost spirit seed, plant in a night ghost's body. After 1 year, it will mature and obtain the night ghost spirit. Immortal understood the role of these two rewards and couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face. With these two skills, as long as he brought some night ghosts back with him when he left, then he would plant the night ghost spirit seeds in their bodies. After a year, he would be able to create 10 hunters in the base. Thinking of this, Immortal directly used the summon night ghost skill. Soon, 10 night ghosts rushed to Immortal's side. Immortal took out the 10 night ghost spirit seeds from his backpack. These night ghost spirit seeds were only the size of sesame seeds and did not glow at all. "You look like the seed of an ordinary plant." Immortal ordered the night ghosts, "Cut open your abdomens." Like obedient students, the night ghosts stretched out their sharp claws and cut open their abdomens. Immortal stuffed the 10 night ghost spirit seeds into the bodies of the night ghosts. Then he threw these night ghosts into his personal reservoir. He also told the sea dragon clone not to eat them. Emma, who was watching from the side, was so shocked that she felt numb. Why were these night ghosts so obedient to their master? However, when he thought of all the unimaginable things that had happened to Immortal, any one of them would be shocking enough if it happened to any one of them. But now, they were all focused on Master. It could be said that Master was synonymous with miracles. He was the aggregate of impossible events. So, any strange things that happened to him were normal. Thinking about it this way, Emma felt relieved. Then, Immortal took Emma and continued flying forward. After flying for another half an hour, Immortal saw that a mountain below was brightly lit. It turned out that this was a city of natives. There were also humans on the Night Ghost's planet, and there were more than 7 billion of them on Earth. Immortal probed with his dragon consciousness and found that people were holding a bonfire party next to a pool in the city. The fragrant barbecue and all kinds of fruits made Immortal drool. On Hunting Island 1, because they were new to the place, the resources were limited. So, it had been a long time since they had barbecue and other delicacies. Now that he suddenly saw this, Immortal was really hungry. They had been fighting for several nights. It was time to relax. Thinking of this, Immortal and Emma landed outside the city. It was impossible to land directly in the city. The humans here also had anti-air firepower. With Immortal's physical strength, he was not afraid of such firepower at all. But it was too troublesome. Emma folded her wings and the three of them walked toward the city gate. 2 night ghosts caught up with them, but Immortal easily killed them. Soon, they arrived at the city gate. The soldiers guarding the city were surprised to see Immortal and the other 2. These 3 humans were loitering outside the city in the middle of the night. Did they have a death wish? Of course, the soldiers guarding the city had seen outsiders before. Those outsiders generally possessed extremely powerful strength. They were the only ones who could linger outside at night. However, those people were very domineering. Usually, they would not go through the city gate when they came to the base. They would come directly from the sky. These 3 people were obviously not outsiders. Thinking of this, a soldier said loudly, "We can let you in, but you have to be tested for the virus." Immortal nodded. Then, under the heavy protection of the soldiers, Immortal and the other 2 were let in. They passed by a house inside the city wall. After a few scans, Immortal and the others' bodies did not show any abnormalities. Only then did they let them in. Immortal was worried that the night ghost spirit in his hand would be detected by the scan. That would be troublesome. In the end, it was not. Then, the leading soldier led them to the residence in the city. This was a place specially arranged to take in refugees. Emosure said that he was hungry and wanted to eat something first. The soldier said, "All the canteens in the refugee shelter have food before midnight." Emosure shook his head. "I smell the aroma of barbecued meat. Is there a bonfire party here?" The soldier frowned slightly. "You almost died outside. Now that you have a bite to eat, you should be thanking the heavens and earth. You still want to ask?" However, when he turned around to look at Emosure and the other two, he saw Emma and her son, who seemed to have no intelligence at all. He could not help but feel pity in his heart. In the end, he nodded. "Okay, I'll take you to the bonfire party. But go back to your residence after eating. Don't cause any trouble or you'll implicate me, understand?" Emosure smiled and nodded. "Don't worry, I just want a bite of barbecued meat." More than 10 minutes later, Emosure and the others arrived at the bonfire party. There were more than 300 people at the scene. The meat of more than 20 animals was being roasted on the rack. On the iron plate next to it, there was a large piece of barbecued meat. Although they did not know what kind of meat it was, since these natives could eat it, Emosure and the others could also eat it. Emosure did not stand on ceremony. He walked over, picked up a plate, and started eating. Especially cooked food. However, at this moment, in the sky, several blue and white rays of light suddenly flew over from the distant horizon. The city guards immediately sounded the alarm. Outsider, outsider, outsider. Important things had to be said thrice. Every time an outsider appeared, it was basically a disaster for the city. Think about it. If a hunter broke into the nest of his prey, what good things could happen? Seeing this, the natives' eyes were filled with deep fear. They hurriedly got up and scattered in all directions. To them, these outsiders were demons. Only Emosure was still sitting there, holding the leg of an unknown animal and gnawing on it with relish. At this moment, one of the fastest natives suddenly fell to the ground and stopped moving. Then, bang, 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 more than 10 of the fastest-running aborigines fell to the ground one after another, not making a sound. In the sky, the blue and white rays of light gradually approached. A dignified voice ordered, "Whoever dares to escape will die." The rest of the aborigines were all scared out of their wits. Psychokinesis didn't exist on the night ghost planet. Therefore, the scene just now was incomprehensible to them. It could only be explained by ghosts. At this moment, the balls of light were even closer. Only then did everyone see that they were 5 outsiders. 4 men and 1 woman. The leader of the group was a handsome young man with a harmless smile on his face. He said to the natives, "We've been killing ourselves outside. We're just tired from killing monsters outside, so we're here to rest tonight. If you serve us well, we'll kill fewer people. Otherwise, we'll slaughter your city." He still had that harmless smile on his face. His tone was as relaxed and normal as if he was chatting about daily life. However, to the natives, it sounded like the voice of a demon. At this moment, rip, an invisible force tore off one of the natives' arms. Blood splattered everywhere. The native screamed in pain. The natives didn't even have time to react. Rip, another native's leg was torn off. The native's face was also pale. His face was contorted as he screamed in pain. The rest of the natives were all scared out of their wits. In the sky, the eyes of the other 4 people were focused on a young man in his 20s. The young man's face was fair and clean, and his clothes were neat and tidy. He looked like a refined scholar from ancient times. However, he was the one who tore off the arms and legs of the 2 natives with his telekinesis. The fair-skinned young man smiled when he saw the other 4 looking at him. "Sorry, I couldn't help it." The other 4 people were speechless. The leader said, "If we want to kill them, we'll kill them when we leave tomorrow. If we kill them all now, who will serve us?" The fair-skinned young man nodded. "Yes, you're right. It's just that I haven't killed anyone in a long time. My hands are itching." Before he finished speaking, his telekinesis spread out again. Rip, Another dozen or so people's arms and legs were torn apart and thrown far away. The scene was suddenly filled with wails and howls. This made the others shake their heads. However, that was all. Everyone had a dark side in their hearts. When they came to the hunting ground, the dark side in their hearts was infinitely magnified. After all, in their eyes, these natives were just prey that they could kill whenever they wanted. This fair-skinned young man was a level 1 telekinesis master. He had been cultivating for more than 10 years, but he was still at level 1. Usually, he wasn't treated well in his family. He was also often bullied outside. Now that he was in the first hunting ground, the demon in his heart seemed to have awakened. Previously, when he was killing the night ghosts, he killed the most. However, he still felt very unhappy. Killing night ghosts was not as satisfying as killing people. Now that he was in this city, he naturally wanted to kill without restraint. At this moment, his telekinesis detected that among these people, there was one person who was different from the rest. Chapter 266. That fair-skinned young man scanned the scene with his telekinesis. He caught sight of a person. Everyone else was in a state of panic. But there was only one person. He was still sitting on the stone bench, holding a piece of barbecued meat and eating it in big bites. His mouth was full of oil. It was as if everything that was happening in front of him had nothing to do with him. That fair-skinned young man suddenly frowned. Usually, his brothers and sisters in the family had been showing off in front of him. After leaving the family, he always met other people showing off in front of him. Now that he had finally come to the first hunting ground, even an indigenous person dared to show off in front of him. Damn it! He cursed in his heart. His face was slightly ferocious. Split open. With a roar in his heart, he attacked Immortal with his telekinesis. He wanted to tear this indigenous person apart in the cruelest way. Instead of tearing him into two halves, he was tearing off strips of flesh from his body. Let him watch helplessly as the flesh on his body was torn clean. However, when his telekinesis enveloped Immortal and tore at Immortal's body, suddenly his brows furrowed tightly, because he found that his telekinesis could not tear this guy's body apart. How was this possible? As a level 1 psychic master, he could easily tear apart any level 1 hunter. Except for level 2 hunters, he could easily tear apart any level 1 hunter. Could it be that this aborigine had reached level 2 or above? What a joke! Thinking of this, he condensed all his telekinesis on Immortal's body. With a move of his telekinesis, he tore at Immortal again. However, Immortal still did not move. He lowered his head and continued to eat the piece of meat. It seemed that the more he ate, the more delicious it was. That fair-skinned young man tried again for a while, and a look of horror began to appear on his face. The rest of the people also noticed that something was wrong from this fair-skinned young man's face. They followed his gaze and saw Immortal, who was eating meat as if nothing had happened. They also felt a chill in their hearts. There's something strange about this indigenous person. Be careful! A scavenger scolded. Who cares what kind of weird thing it is? Can it withstand my energy weapon? As he spoke, he condensed an energy weapon on his right arm. When the natives saw that guy condense an energy weapon, their expressions changed greatly. They had seen the outsiders condense such weapons before. The destructive power of this weapon was extremely strong. Basically, a single sweep could kill a large number of them. No, God, please let us go. We know our wrongs, we really know our wrongs. We only beg you to let us go. The natives begged one after another. At this moment, Immortal finally finished eating. He took a towel that was specially used to wipe his hands and wiped his hands clean. Then he looked up at the 5 people in the air. The next moment he suddenly leaped. His figure instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the air. His right hand clenched into a fist and smashed towards the head of the energy martial artist. The young man's head instantly exploded. His body was sent flying by the huge impact. Like a stone, he was thrown more than 300 meters away. When the other 4 outsiders saw this, their expressions changed drastically. Was this person a devil? With only his physical strength, he had killed a level 1 hunter with one punch. Not good fight, the leader hurriedly shouted. At the same time, he said to the fair-skinned youth, use telekinesis to restrict him. He knew that it was impossible for the fair-skinned youth to use telekinesis to kill Immortal. If it was possible, with the fair-skinned youth's character, he would have done it long ago. Since he couldn't kill him, he could at least restrict his speed. However, he was obviously wrong. The fear in the fair-skinned youth's heart was far greater than the others. Because no matter how he used telekinesis to control this guy, it didn't have the slightest effect. This guy seemed to not be afraid of telekinesis at all. The next moment, Immortal had already arrived behind another level 1 scavenger. His knee hit the man's lower back hard. The man's lumbar spine was directly broken. His entire upper body folded together with his legs. It looked extremely terrifying. Among the remaining 3, the psychic master turned around and was about to escape. However, Immortal's fist had already landed on his body. The psychic master's physical strength was too weak. Immortal's fist directly passed through the guy's back and came out of his chest. Then he turned around. 2 kicks flew out. The remaining 2 people were also easily killed by him. At this point, these 5 outsiders. In just 5 seconds, they were killed by Immortal. What was even more terrifying was that he didn't even use a trace of energy. He killed these 5 people completely with his physical strength. If this matter was known by other people on the continent, it would probably cause an uproar. At this time, Immortal had already received a notification in his mind. After killing these 5 people, he obtained another 5 drops of Titan Dragon blood. The reason why he didn't use telekinesis to kill these 5 people was because of this. Although 5 drops of giant dragon blood were insignificant to him now, Lin still had a lot of giant dragon blood left. But little drops make a mickle. No matter how much there was, it was accumulated drop by drop. After killing these 5 people, Immortal's heart didn't have any ripples, as if he had crushed 5 ants. He secretly said in his heart, it won't be like the plot of those melodramatic novels where after killing a few guys, it immediately attracted their elders, then the ancestors, and then some other forces. Fortunately, he knew from the memories of these 5 people that 4 of them didn't have any powerful family elders. The only one with a powerful elder was that psychic master. However, he had already run away from home for 5 or 6 years. Even if he died, his family elders might not know. Even if they knew, they wouldn't come all the way to avenge him. Thinking of this, Immortal was relieved. He said to Emma, "You've eaten, go back to sleep." Emma nodded. "Yes, master." At this time, those natives' jaws were about to drop. They didn't come back to their senses for a long time. As far as they knew, the Aborigines were basically unable to withstand a single blow from those outsiders. But this native was too ferocious. He didn't even use a genetic weapon, he just used his physical strength to kill those 5 people with one punch. This was definitely a natural-born god strength. Thinking of this, one of them couldn't help but kneel on the ground and worship Immortal. With him bowing, the others followed suit and bowed to the ground one after another like dominoes. "Thank you, hero, for saving our city. If it wasn't for you, we probably wouldn't be able to see the light of day tomorrow." "Thank you, hero. Thank you, hero." Immortal waved his hand casually. "I just didn't want to be disturbed by them." As he spoke, he took out 20 bottles of recovery medicine. "Give these recovery medicine to those who are injured." Chapter 267. After Immortal left, a 13-year-old child picked up a bottle of recovery potion that Immortal had just placed on the stone bench. He quickly came to the side of a pale-faced man whose arm had just been torn off. He said to the man, "Dad, this is recovery potion." Although he didn't know the specific effects of this recovery potion, since it was called recovery potion, it should be able to speed up the recovery of his father's wound. The one-armed man picked up the bottle of dark green potion with his left hand and looked at it for a moment. Finally, he gritted his teeth, opened his mouth, and drank all the green liquid in the bottle. Only a few seconds later, something magical happened. The flesh and blood on the wound of his broken arm began to wriggle. Gradually, muscle tissue, nerves, and even bones began to grow out of it. His broken arm was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 5 minutes, it was as good as new. And there wasn't even a trace of a scar on the previous wound. The man looked at his newly grown arm in amazement, and tried to turn it twice, then swung it left and right back and forth. Everything was no different from his previous arm. He was greatly surprised. When the others saw this, they were all pleasantly surprised. The effect of this potion is too magical. There's actually such a magical potion in the world? Is this holy water? Amidst the exclamations, the injured people all received the recovery potion. After taking it, their bodies recovered in just a few minutes. This made them excited, and also filled them with gratitude toward Immortal and the others. That family of 3 is too mysterious. Not only mysterious, but also very powerful. We've worshipped God our whole lives, but God didn't care about us at all, and now we've been saved by Him. I think we should worship Him from now on. At this time, Immortal had already entered the dragon's den with Emma. He didn't expect these people to be grateful to him. The reason why he gave these people the recovery potion was only to repay them for the food they gave him. As for whether these people would be grateful to him or hate him later, he didn't care. In other words, even if these people pointed their weapons at him tomorrow, he wouldn't care. After so many years, he had already seen through human nature. In fact, the next morning, these people didn't point their weapons at him. On the contrary, the natives picked up their weapons and stood against each other. This was because the people who had taken the recovery potion last night not only had their bodies completely recovered, but after one night, their strength had also increased by 1 level. This made everyone's heart burn with passion. He hadn't used up all the recovery potions from last night. There were only a few bottles left. At this moment, all of them were trying to grab the last few bottles of recovery potion. Of course, they knew that Immortal had even more recovery potions on him. However, they did not dare to target Immortal, so they could only fight among themselves. It was almost noon the next day when Immortal and the others finally came out of the dragon cave. When Immortal found out that these people had actually started fighting amongst themselves over the recovery potion, he did not say anything, nor did he do anything. He was not surprised by this result. This was human nature. There was a bright side to human nature, but there was also an ugly side. It was impossible for him to change all of this by himself. Therefore, his code of conduct had always been to stay out of harm's way. As for what other people do, it has nothing to do with me. However, when these people saw Immortal appear, they temporarily stopped fighting. They began to serve Immortal with good food and drinks, hoping to get a few more bottles of recovery potion from Immortal. However, Immortal did not take out another bottle of recovery potion. In the evening, when the sun set behind the mountains, Immortal took Emma and her son and left the city. As soon as Immortal left, the city once again fell into a state of fighting. Immortal did not know what kind of chaos this city would fall into after he left. He was not interested in knowing. He used his draconic will to investigate the area within 100 kilometers as he flew forward with Emma and her son. After flying for about 2 hours, Immortal arrived at the mountain pass where the 2 mountains faced each other. According to the map, this place was called the Black Mountain Pass. After the Black Mountain Pass was the Death Swamp. In the Death Swamp, there were countless level 2 evolved night ghosts. At this moment, his draconic will swept across the Black Mountain Pass. At the entrance of Black Mountain, a group of hunters was chasing after 2 night ghosts. The 2 night ghosts were both level 2 evolved night ghosts. This team of hunters had 7 people, 5 men and 2 women. One of the women was the beautiful girl in front of Emma at the place where Immortal and the others had bought the tickets. At this moment, they were chasing after the 2 night ghosts. They had already passed through Black Mountain Pass and entered the Death Swamp. Immortal was slightly surprised. It was obvious that the 2 night ghosts had deliberately lured this group of people into the Death Swamp. According to his understanding, the intelligence of the night ghosts was at most equivalent to that of a 2 or 3-year-old child. How could they know the tactic of luring the enemy deep? When the 7 people chased the 2 night ghosts into the death swamp, the surrounding night ghosts did not immediately appear. They flew for another 2 minutes and covered a distance of more than 100 kilometers. Only then did they realize that something was wrong. They were surrounded by swamps. From time to time, the skeletons of animals could be seen in the swamp. Occasionally, they could even see human skulls. Someone suddenly realized something and was shocked. "Oh no, we've been tricked." The others were stunned and asked, "What's wrong?" That person looked around, then lowered his voice and said 4 words that made one's hair stand on end. "Death swamp." Boom. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck everyone's heart. This is the death swamp? That's impossible. Weren't we very far from the death swamp before? The beautiful girl was so shocked that her face turned pale. Death swamp? Oh no. The guide said that this place is full of level 2 hunters. It's a place even scarier than the Hell Wasteland. Seeing this, a rather masculine young man came to the beautiful girl's side. He said, "Don't worry, I'm here." The other girl said, "According to the guide, the Death Swamp is rated as level 10 on the Night Ghosts planet. Even level 10 hunters would have to take a detour if they came here. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go." After reaching a consensus, everyone quickly turned their hoverboards around and flew toward the Black Mountain Pass. The hoverboards had a certain flying height limit. They could only fly up to a height of 100 meters. Therefore, they could not fly high enough to avoid the night ghosts below. They could only turn around and fly toward the Black Mountain Pass. You're tuning into the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.